Avatar Legends, the fighting game, is a fantastic fighting game that does the IP of Avatar really, really well. The short end of it is simple. For 30 US dollars, 40 Canadian, you get a fantastic fighter in terms of core gameplay and mechanics, and a great presentation that takes the anime to life in this amazing, fun to play, addictive fighting game. The downside of it is, despite the fact that it's 30 US dollars, it is hard to recommend due to the lack of content up front, as well as the fact that the game honestly feels unfinished. Let's get into it. Let's start with the reasons why you should buy Avatar Fighting Legends. As stated, it is not a full price game. It is 30 US dollars, 40 Canadian. And with that, it gives you 12 fighters from the Avatar universe, plus it includes a story mode, an arcade mode, and online, as well as training. So let's start with the story mode. The story mode takes you through an original story set in the IP, and it is throughout this story mode that as you play and progress, you'll earn in-game currency that you'll then use currency to unlock the avatar's assists for the characters in the main aspect of the game. So you kind of almost have to play the story in order to get the very specific fighting style that you want for your character. The story itself, as stated, is an original story that blends all of the universes together, and the story itself isn't particularly fancy. It is a very simple story that is self-explanatory, and overall it's nothing to brag about whatsoever. More so with the story itself is how the story is told. While you do have little bits and pieces of information that is you read at the beginning of every chapter, and when you engage in the chapter, you play whatever corresponding character that you have to play for that chapter. Some chapters are just cutscenes themselves. Once you get into it, the interesting thing is the dialogue is told through pop-ups, but there is a lack of expression. Every avatar, every character does not change their face when given dialogue, and every character on screen just stands there in their default fighting pose. It really creates this atmosphere of just lifelessness in the story when they're trying to tell you. And when the story itself isn't particularly great to begin with, it kind of makes the whole cinematics feel very, very dull and boring, in my opinion. Not once that I was engaged in the story because of all of these aforementioned reasons. But the story mode is there, and the story mode will take you roughly about 3 to 4 hours to complete through and through. The good thing about the story is that you have to play pretty much all of the characters all the way through. So you will get to taste a bunch of them to help you figure out which characters you want to main, as well as unlock their assist characters for their fighting styles. The only other issue I had with the story mode itself is when it came to fighting the story's bosses. The bosses themselves basically are immune to hit stun for weak attacks. You have to really, really use knockback attacks in order to do any meaningful damage, and it just ends up being you just spamming that until the enemy dies. And that's basically the story mode. When you get to the game's arcade mode, the arcade mode acts as any other arcade mode. You select your fighter, and each fighter has its own miniaturized story for the arcade mode. So you will have a different story to play through in the arcade mode that is separate to that of the main story. The only thing here to make note is you'll play through the arcade mode, you'll earn a score, and that's your score. But the problem is the score itself isn't retained. So when I completed my first playthrough of the arcade with Korra, I got a score somewhere. I don't know what the number was. And then I said, okay, let me go beat that with Azula, who's my other character I like to play. And yet the score from Korra wasn't recorded. So I couldn't even know what the high score was to see which character I performed better with. And there was no way for me to even attempt to try to beat it again because I couldn't see what the score is. So while the arcade mode does have its own little story for each character, the scores that it gives you are basically meaningless because they are not retained after you complete them for some ridiculous reason. Now, aside from this, obviously this is a fighting game. There is the multiplayer and online scene, but before we touch on that, let's touch on the training mode. Now, the training mode here is exactly what you would expect to be. It's training, it helps you go through. There is tutorials to help you learn the game. But the one interesting thing, and I am going to give them a lot of credit for this, this is a first, in my opinion, from what I know, to ever be done in a fighting game, where when you are practicing combos, not only can you view a demo of the combo and try to do it, but they actually have a arithmetic mini game in the combo trials. And basically what it lets you do is it lets you go step by step, input by input on how to perform a combo. And once you do it, it will give you a grade based on how well you perform that combo. And you could repeat this multiple times until you perfect the score so that you can do it consistently in match. I thought this was absolutely brilliant. Something that more fighting games should adopt, as this is a great learning tool for new players to how not only learn combos and say, oh, look, this is a combo, this is the inputs, how to actually get it done right without questioning like if there's a delay or anything of that nature. So overall, I think that was a very great tool for the training, and I'll give them a lot of praise for that. Now let's talk about multiplayer. The multiplayer aspect of the game, again, lacks content. There is no main lobbies for players to congregate, lobbies that you'll find in games like 2XKO or the upcoming Marvel Tokon, where you go into a lobby and there's however many players in the lobby all congregating, where you can spectate matches and be in a chat. Nope, there's none of that. You hit multiplayer, you hit matchmake, and you're basically going to spar with a character while you wait till the game finds you a match, and then once you find a match, player accepts, in you go. That's it. Furthermore, the custom lobbies that they have currently only allow for 2 players in a lobby, so you can't even make your own tournaments in game, which is another sad feature because this is a feature that pretty much every fighting game has. What makes matters worse, there's not even a ranked mode at launch. How do you have a competitive fighting game with no ranked mode at launch? It's beyond me. How do you expect players to stick around long term when there's nothing for them to grind for other than personal pride to get good? So these are key missing features that other games have. While the game is at a discounted price, it is not a full price game. You're still missing key features that people come to expect, which hurts the longevity of people's desire to play the game long term. So with that is basically the ins and outs. There's no other game modes, nothing to sink your teeth in. There is a gallery with some art and things of that nature, but nothing in terms of gameplay. So that's where we're at with Avatar Fighting Legends. And the worst part of everything and why this game really feels like it's not finished is because 8 hours prior to launch, they delayed the Xbox version to September 3rd, and the Switch version does not have multiple language or crossplay. Which, again, I don't know why. This just screams this game wasn't finished. It should not be launched at this point. So it makes it even harder to recommend, knowing that that's the intention and how it feels when you play the game. So Avatar Fighting Legends, what's here for your money, is a fantastic fighting game, gameplay-wise, which is the most important thing, and as well as has a story mode. But there's nothing here long-term. Players looking for single-player content, they're not going to have much to here in order to beat all of the arcade as well as the story, less than 10 hours. And then if you're looking for multiplayer, there's currently no ranked. It's supposed to come later, but there's no ranked mode. And there's nothing to grind for, and there's no other game modes or ways to host currently any tournaments. So all in all, Avatar, even though it is a discounted price, it doesn't feel great to invest, and it's hard for me to recommend in its current state. It will be better down the roads once they add the features and make more content for the game. But in its current state, even at $30 US, if you're a big fan of Avatar, I do feel like you could buy in and have a good time with the mechanics, but you're going to have a hard time wanting to play this game long term. And if you're not a fighting game fan, while the price may be of interest, it doesn't change the fact that it feels unfinished. And you, again, like any dedicated player, you're probably going to have a hard time playing this long term. Overall, in its current state, Avatar Fighting Legends is difficult to recommend, but I still have fun with it because the most important part, which is gameplay, is the best aspect and arguably some of the best gameplay mechanics in any fighting game. But feels unfinished and it's missing content, so it hurts it quite a bit. Overall, I'm giving Avatar Fighting Legends a 7 out of 10. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.